Good evening, this is the Oscar Expert here with Brother Bro, and it's time to review The Brutalist. This is one of the big fall festival breakout films of the year with, masterpiece raves coming out of the Venice Film Festival, and so it shot up as one of our most anticipated films. And there's a reason that this thing is being hyped up. I mean, this is a 3.5-hour beast with a 15-minute intermission. The film definitely harkens back to that new Hollywood era, and it seems heavily influenced by American epics of the past, like Once Upon a Time in America, or maybe The Godfather, and maybe more recently, like the films of Paul Thomas Anderson. I think it has a very The Master type of look to it. It's easy to get lost in the majesty of the movie's presentation, especially from the opening 10 minutes. You've got an absolutely gorgeous score, epic horns that greet us into the great promise of the country.
And also the terror, perhaps.
Yes.
It echoes like the engine of a train, which is both ominous and reflecting the optimism of that journey. It's a very rich score with a unique assemblage of instruments, and the thing is just like groaning and blaring throughout the picture. I think it is easily one of the highlights. The film really does a lot in those first 10 minutes to bring you in and make you feel like you're about to watch a masterpiece. So like even just from vibes, I think people are like, I know that I'm just watching something amazing. I think I was a little slower to catch on to the feeling that like, I know I'm gonna love this movie. I don't think I quite had the experience that some people did where they felt like the thing was just an abject masterpiece the whole way through, but only because I felt like I was just trying to get a sense of what the film was really about and attaching onto ideas. And a lot of those ideas I feel like didn't fully flourish until after I had absorbed the film in its entirety and had conversations with other people. So it's really a picture I don't think I'm going to be wholly fair to until I give it a second watch. And if I could jump back into the theater and do another 3.5 hours with this thing, I would do it in a heartbeat. It really was just thrilling to watch this story unfold. It's a film that really takes its time to flesh out the entirety of a man's life, and it feels extremely grounded in the period and not glamorous of it whatsoever. I just felt completely transported by the visuals, and also just by the fact that it wants us to be so immersed, giving more detail to a story than we're used to in a film. I'm really grateful for the runtime, and like it didn't feel it at all. I was just excited the whole way through. But again, I think my main takeaway is like really thought-provoking. There's a lot of deep ideas here, and I think I absorbed a lot of it, but really need a second viewing to dive in deeper.
Yeah, there were stretches of the movie where I was wondering if the film's ideas were either developing and progressing enough for my taste or were interesting enough to merit like this grand presentation where it's like it's asserting itself as a masterpiece.
And I think asserting yourself like that, you're trying to indicate that it has a great importance, and you're not just telling the story of one man, but like maybe the story of an entire group of people or the story of a nation, and it is absolutely trying to comment on larger political and social themes like that.
Yeah, this is about the birth of the post-World War II American dream.
Yeah.
Brady Corbett is an extraordinarily ambitious filmmaker. I learned this very quickly when I watched Vox Lux, which also seeks to examine someone's life in the aftermath of a tragedy and how they flourish in an America that, in that film was plagued by shootings and the tragedy of 9/11. And in this film, the character is coming from the Holocaust. You see how he has to navigate his dreams and his desire to flourish and be secure. It's quite a haunting portrait of the American dream too. It really presents that pursuit in all of its glory and all of its horror. And Adrien Brody, my God, the film really does rely on his talents as an actor. What's so remarkable about his performance is how he carries the weight of where he's been with him the entire time. We don't really see any glimpses of his time before, getting on the boat to this country, but it's all written on his face every second of the film. The urgency of him pursuing this dream.
With the way the film is written, it's a little like There Will Be Blood in the sense that the character's past is not something that is directly touched upon. And we're kind of on the edge of our seat to really learn who this person is and what are they truly striving for. I thought Adrien Brody's performance here was massive. Easily one of the year's best and a surefire, possibly frontrunner for the Oscar. There's just not a false note with him. Like, you really needed an actor to be extremely reliable and believable to like take you on this journey. And very much in the same way that Paul Thomas Anderson's films rely on that kind of protagonist to sink you into a film that's kind of working on a different level. Adrian Brody was that force for me, and I can't imagine anyone doing a better job here. Honestly, I wouldn't quite say the same about Guy Pearce, though I thought he did a good job. It wasn't the same level of like, you could not replace him, and I don't know if I loved all of his choices for this character. It felt just a tiny bit removed from a reality and like a little bit of a character.
At the same time, this man that he's portraying does kind of want to be this character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did wonder what would have happened if the direction of Guy Pearce was to play it a little bit more loose. Felt a bit like maybe a Philip Seymour Hoffman's character in The Master.
Yeah, and Philip Seymour Hoffman would have like crushed that performance.
I don't want to compare anybody to Philip Seymour Hoffman, but it did feel like I could imagine liking the role more like with him in it. I don't know if that's even fair to say.
It's not even fair. It's not even fair for Guy Pearce.
Anyway, I really liked Guy Pearce in this, so I think that audiences are going to be really happy with him, and he is going to come for his first Oscar nomination for sure. Felicity Jones, I thought, was really impressive here. I mean,
she really surprised me.
She was great in The Theater of Everything, but I think here her character work goes even deeper, and there are several scenes of hers that I thought were some of the best in the film, and some of the most devastating too. Like Adrian Brody, her character has so much weight from her past that she's carrying with her. Some of their scenes together are just immaculate acting. My God, this is easily just one of the best acted films of the year.
Yeah, and many of the great scenes in this film play out in one or just a few takes, and many scenes are just proving that that is the best way to like fully be absorbed in a dramatic scene. I thought Brady Corbett's direction, like in terms of style, I think he absolutely nailed it, and there are some surreal elements to the production design and the lighting that made me feel like I was maybe even in a horror movie. Those choices in particular are really sticking with me. Although there's no glamour in the period detail, it just was the perfect look and film stock for the story that it's trying to tell. I also want to shout out Alessandro Nivola. He's in the first approximately 30 minutes of the film. He was really extraordinary, and I did feel like I kind of missed him after his character faded away. The best thing about The Brutalist to me is that its haunting portrait of America and the West and the American dream will remain in my brain long after the festival. Most films just come and go from your consciousness and you don't really like think about them again. But this one is, I think, really hard to shake. And I'm really looking forward to a second viewing. I think it could go up for me in terms of my rating and my overall feeling about it. I did feel like I had some confusion to sort out from the first one. And I do think a lot of people will have that experience here, but I think a second viewing is going to be pretty awesome.
For me in the second viewing, I'm definitely going to be looking to see if scenes where I was left wanting a little bit more oomph are standing out to me as being more substantive than I thought. And I also want to see if I feel that its portrait of the American dream is more detailed than I've currently absorbed it to be. I felt like I knew what kind of portrait we were getting at a certain point, and I don't know if I was entirely surprised. There were some layers that I think were added on in the ending, though. I really liked this movie. It has definitely stuck with me more than anything I've seen at the festival so far. And yeah, for now I'm an 8 on it.
Right now, I would give it an 8 out of 10.
It's obvious that this is an awards player, so long as it is bought this year. We're probably going to hear word of that very soon. The film is going to get double-digit nominations, I think. I don't see a world where this doesn't get picture, director, screenplay, actor, supporting actor, and supporting actress as its above the line nominations. I mean, those are all like snugly in there. And in the tech categories, it has to get cinematography. It has to get score. It will very likely get editing. I think the editing is a highlight for sure.
That's how you think contending to win, actually.
And then production design seems pretty likely. The movie is about architecture.
Yeah, and the work of art that he is creating throughout has kind of like a Synecdoche, New York, the play in that film feeling, where it becomes surreal.
The sound design was also really strong in places, and I wonder if that can get into the 5.
I thought it created an interesting ambience to just the background chatter, and it was often ominous, even though there wasn't like necessarily a threat or like a specific sound that was creating that tension. But it's a little unconventional because there's no
in a year where there's 2 sound categories, I wouldn't be surprised if they went for like one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of fireworks with the sound work here.
But there isn't always. Sometimes if you're a big Best Picture movie, you'll just get into sound, you know what I mean?
Maybe. Yeah, I think it's a maybe.
Now, what could win here? I think score's winning.
Score is it's
That would
gonna
be
win
my
score,
number
everybody.
one bet,
It's gonna win
perhaps.
score. It's gonna be really hard to beat. I mean, there is an overture in the film where the score just plays with the credits, and it's also present throughout the film. It's very memorable.
I think the cinematography is absolutely in contention to win. Would probably predict it for now. I guess it's that or Dune 2 from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think
so-
this is going to win cinematography. Just for the fact that it looks like a film from the 70s, feels period authentic, and has that 70 millimeter projection VistaVision thing going on. Is it 70 millimeters or just VistaVision?
They're projecting it in 70 millimeter in many places, but it was shot
Yeah.
in 35.
Yeah, I think that it's got cinematography.
This is pretty likely to take an acting award. I think Adrian Brody could be very tough to beat. I mean, I don't think that there's going to be a performance in that category that is better.
I feel gaslit if anyone tells me that anyone else is going to win. It was like that huge to me. And then Guy Pearce has had a lot of win buzz around his name here. People would probably get behind a win for him.
I think they might, yeah,
And
because
if there was another competitive performance here, then I would easily say like, okay, he doesn't have to win, but it's like him or Macklin right now. And there's no one else really competing for the win unless A Real Pain gets Best Picture, right?
You're right,
He gets
that's
Best
what I was
Picture
gonna say.
nominated. Then maybe Kieran Culkin would take supporting actor. I don't think it'll win
yeah.
screenplay because Honora's competing there, and Honora's like, that feels like a prize that it has to win.
this is a huge contender to win director. If Honora wins picture, maybe that's competitive for director too. But The Brutalist could even take director without picture. Like, it's just that big. And man, with all these potential wins, you gotta wonder about Best Picture. This is going to be one of those films that's in the conversation to win. I will say that my initial reaction was that this could be like Roma, maybe, where it'll take a few awards, could even take director, could runner up for Best Picture, but maybe something that gets people a bit more, emotional.
Yeah,
Gets
it's
in there.
not quite a populist film, and it's definitely one that most people are going to need to like take a second to think about, even though I think critics will possibly take to it immediately. If The Brutalist did indeed take cinematography, score, and an acting prize and director, it seems like too big of a package that picture would have to come along. I just don't have a great sense for what is going to take Best Picture. I'm between this, Honora, and still Sing Sing, with the chance that Sing Sing could have a revival. I could even give each of those like 1 in 3 shot, and I would feel like that's kind of where we're at. So, we're in for an interesting race this year. That's fun.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
Have you succeeded in pursuing the American dream?